Hello again, everyone. Welcome back to the Fandom Zone podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts, Charles Skaggs, back in the Fandom Zone, ready to talk some more Stargirl from the DC Universe and the CW with my fellow Fandom Zoner and a guy who's conveniently located north of a hurricane at the very moment, Jesse Jackson. How you doing, Jesse?
I'm sorry, Charles. I was eating my sandwich of crow.
Yes.
And I was unable to talk to you for a moment.
I thought we suddenly got switched to a porn movie there for a minute. What's going on?
I am, first off, yes, I am safe in Dallas, Texas, miles away from the hurricane that's hitting the West Coast.
Hurricane Hannah, for those wondering.
Yes, hitting the Texas coast. And so we certainly send good thoughts for those who are struggling with that. Hopefully there won't be too much damage. Because
Texas doesn't have enough going on right now.
Exactly.
Right?
Oh, with the spike of cases and 100-degree weather and a governor who's maybe not quite all there, but we will move on.
It's always reassuring, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
But we are here to talk what I like to call Never Doubt Charles, He's Always Right episode of Fandom Zone podcast.
Well, as they said on Game of Thrones, it is known.
Yes.
So here at episode 186, we're getting up there. We're going to talk Brainwave Jr. And this was the 10th episode of Stargirl Season 1, aired just last week on July 20th, 2020. Written by James Dale Robinson, or as comic book fans know him simply as James Robinson. You know, the guy behind the great classic Starman series with Tony Harris and Peter Snejberg and other great artists, assorted artists. And also who wrote the previous episode, Wildcat, returns here for what I feel, and I'm going to go ahead and spoil this a little bit, I feel is the Stargirl's best episode of the season so far.
You will not find an agreement here when we get down to
I'm not going to find
ratings.
an agreement? I thought I would find an agreement.
I misspoke. You will not find disagreement here. I totally agree with you. This is it has been a payoff to a lot that we've seen. We still have story to tell, and and I'm looking forward to the next few episodes. But everything we've been working on, everything we've discussed, a lot of the minor quibbles I've had about the series, they kind of addressed. I still have a few, and as we get forward, I'm going to talk to you about this. But overall, I agree with you. This was just something really, really good.
Yeah, James Robinson, if you read, for those who, like us, are Starman fans of the great 80-plus issue run that Robinson wrote for DC Comics, they know that he's really good at character stories. He's not so much wrapped up in the superhero battles, but when he gets into character pieces, he really shines. And I think this episode is a perfect example of this. Even though we do get a little bit of a superhero battle, obviously.
And I think a pretty good battle.
Yeah.
I was very happy with
Yeah.
The special effects and the stunt work. I thought it was really well done.
Yeah, I'm guessing Ken from Chicago might have a little problem with the wire work in a couple of scenes, but just roll with it. It's fun.
It's okay. We love you, Ken.
Exactly. So this episode directed by Andy Armanjanian. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. And or Armanjanian, I guess. Maybe that's the exact same way. And then there's a great spotlight for Jake Austin Walker, of course, as Henry King Jr., a.k.a. Brainwave Jr., although he's not quite Brainwave Jr. here on the show, yet. We'll find out. Because, as we know, this episode ends rather tragically, or does it? And then I think that's something we can talk about. Some trivia that I just want to mention before we get diving into our 3 topics today. If you're a DC Comics fan, like us, you probably noticed some Easter eggs at the beginning of the episode that I thought I'd mention, because if you're paying attention to the opening shot of the Dallas Theater in Blue Valley, that you saw that the movie Strange Adventures, based on the DC Comics series, which starred, of course, Adam Strange and featured other characters like Animal Man and others, was playing on the marquee. And then you also, on the outside of the building, you had some movie posters for The Unknown Soldier, Prez, and G.I. Robot, which I thought was pretty cool.
I thought that was very nice.
So very cool Easter eggs. Nice little nod for the diehard DC fans on that one.
I agree.
You want some background on Brainwave Jr.?
Please.
So this character first appeared in 1983's All-Star Squadron number 24, created by Roy Thomas and the great Jerry Ordway. I'm a big fan of Jerry's. I was fortunate enough to meet him at the International Superman Expo in 1988, and really, really great guy. He also had a great run on Power Shazam back in the day, and Adventures of Superman, of course. So as the son of the criminal Brainwave and Gimmick Girl, a.k.a. Mary Pemberton, Sylvester Pemberton's adopted sister, Henry King Jr. inherited his father's superhuman mental abilities, like he does here on the show, but became a crime fighter to atone for his father's past deeds. And he joined his Uncle Sylvester's superhero group, Infinity Incorporated, quickly dropping the Junior after his father died. And then he also became romantically involved with Jade, the daughter of the original Green Lantern, Alan Scott.
Now, you have not mentioned when you discussed in the previous episodes,
yes,
that we have not discussed Brainwave's wife and Brainwave Jr.,
yes, right.
Henry's mother. Had you suspected that they may, because after they announced this, I, of course, did a little search on the internet and found that this was something that had been covered before in comics.
Yeah, well, I knew who his mother was supposed to be from the comics.
Okay.
So I was just kind of hoping they would introduce her on the show.
That's nice.
So speaking of which, if you want a little background on Mary Pemberton, Meredith Mary Pemberton, and interestingly, the show, I noticed in the subtitles, they spell her name as Merri.
Yes.
But in the comics, it's Merry, like Merry Christmas.
Okay.
But so a little bit of a change there, but nothing obviously not a big deal. She first appeared in 1948 Star Spangled Comics number 81, created by Otto Binder and Win Mortimer, and she was born Mary Creamer, but was adopted by the parents of the original Star Spangled Kid, Sylvester Pemberton, as a playmate for Sylvester and his brother. And when Mary eventually discovered that Sylvester was the Star Spangled Kid, she worked with him for a time as Mary, the Girl of 1,000 Gimmicks, which is a bit of a mouthful, so they kind of later changed her character name to Gimmick Girl. And this was while Sylvester's partner Stripesy was recovering from a broken leg. So she didn't have much of a career, but was around for a little bit. And apparently, her character was so popular back in the 40s that her feature in Star Spangled Comics replaced the Star Spangled Kid and Stripesy.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So just a little note. But of course, later on, Roy Thomas, when he was creating Brainwave Jr., established that, hey, Henry King Jr.'s mother was Mary. So that made essentially, Star Spangled Kid, later Skyman, Brainwave Jr.'s uncle, which is something that's kind of introduced here.
Nice.
All right. And of course, leading to a little bit of confusion on Courtney's part because she thinks that Brainwave Jr. must be her cousin as a result.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
All right. So a little trivia there. So if you're kind of curious about Mary, because she does kind of get name checked here in a pretty big way.
She does, and that was nice. I think that was a really nice moment.
Yep. So it's again a great, this is the kind of stuff that James Robinson loves. He loves to go back to the lore. He loves to incorporate it, and that's one of the reasons I was really glad he wrote this particular episode.
All right.
It's 3 topics. So let's talk about topic number 1. Let's talk about Pat, Courtney, Barbara, and Mike, because as you remember, the big cliffhanger from last week's episode, Brainwave, was that, oh, hey, Barbara saw the cosmic staff floating in midair alongside Courtney and Pat in the basement. Dun, dun, dun. The secret's out and has some rather uncomfortable fallout.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that.
I love the fact that Courtney is still trying to, it's a high-tech broom.
From Sharper Image, yeah.
And I'm finally glad that
Barbara's in on the secret.
Yeah, no, I'm just really glad that Pat's like, no.
Yeah.
No. I'm the adult here. It's time to step up. The whole conversation of like, okay, don't lead with that.
Yeah.
Was really well done.
But you notice no good deed goes unpunished for Pat.
Well, and you knew that was going to happen.
Right.
You just could see that. I also liked the flashback to the meet cute, where they're both in the diner.
Yes.
That
was a great sequence, by the way.
That was a really good sequence. And it kind of sets up how they met in this city, but they were both living in California and then decide to come back to the city. Kind of explains a little bit of, well, how did that work?
Yeah.
And so
we had some questions about that earlier in the season.
Yeah.
Like, how did these two kids hook up?
Yeah, and so now then she was there to sell
They
her
split
mother's house.
They split a banana sundae, and
yes.
Yeah.
By the way,
banana split, I should say.
Yeah. According to IMDb, and I did not notice this, but someone posted under Goose that the banana split actually had 2 bananas in it.
Yes,
so
I noticed that.
So when they said
I
there's
did
only
notice
one
that,
banana, so the correct thing should have said we only have enough bananas for 1 banana split, not 2.
Right.
But anyway, minor quibble. But I did not catch that, but I thought that was fun. I love one of the things that I am always kind of one of my core beliefs is that if you explain to someone what's going on fully, that you have the best chance of success. Like if I'm unhappy about something, and I explain to you why I'm feeling unhappy, you may not understand, but at least we have a better chance of connecting.
Right.
So I like that Pat explained everything he could in a logical way. I understand how Barbara would reject it. I understand. I don't fault her for not understanding and forgiving right away, but at least he got it out there. So I love that sequence.
It does, of course, get a little uncomfortable when she's just like, look, okay, so once she finds out the truth about the that story behind the quote-unquote car accident, that Courtney was injured,
yeah,
and Pat created that cover story, she's just like, okay, that's it. Get out of this house.
Well, yeah, because from her perspective,
yeah,
he hurt her child.
Yeah.
He put her child in danger.
Right.
And if this was not a superhero story, and I'm making air quotes that only Charles can see, we would be totally agree with her. If you said if a stepfather was putting your child in risk,
right,
you would kick him out of the house. We understand in context what's going on, and so I really like that moment. And not to jump around
because
too
it was
much.
real. It was believable.
It real and believable. And the other thing I really like is, and I know I'm kind of jumping around, so please curb me in on.
Okay.
But having Pat and Mike have a moment. Because, I've said, I wish we saw him as a better father, and he's trying to do that. And then, Pat's like, Mike's like, look, don't get a good mushy old man. I'm going to pack a bag. Like, if you're leaving, I'm leaving. And I love that moment. And then I love when Courtney and Mike talk, and he's like, you're supposed to be my sister. You're not supposed to. And he doesn't understand what's going on. The four people dynamic was perfect. The only thing you didn't get is Mike and Barbara, and there just wasn't time. But in a perfect world, I would have loved to seen that dynamic too, because we had everything else.
Right, because you saw Mike growing closer to Barbara.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, you touched on a couple of great things there. That Mike's loyalty to Pat. Obviously, he's a very loyal son, which is probably one of the reasons that we saw him earlier in the season lay into Courtney because of her spending so much time with his father. But he does kind of make a pretty rash assumption, and I get it that okay, he's a kid and he's very emotional at this point, and kind of not really thinking in a more mature way. But he makes the assumption to Courtney that look, you never wanted me around, you never wanted my dad around or whatever. And so therefore, I'm not going to be your stepbrother. And not quite sure where that particular animosity came from. Because if remember, he was pissed off about that Courtney was spending so much time with his father, that you would think that, well, he wanted Pat around, or Courtney wanted Pat around, and then to turn around and say, well, you didn't want us around. That makes no sense, really. But again, he's a kid. So
I'm going to
or was that just me seeing that way?
No. I think that's good, and I'm going to compete for a Charles No Prize.
Yes.
Even though this is the wrong universe, you will get this reference, right? Okay.
Yeah, Marvel No Prize, yeah.
Yeah, because what I imagine in my mind is that when Barbara and Pat first started dating, that Courtney had some resentment and was cold.
Right.
And so therefore Mike is bringing back that original reluctance they may have had when
her initial reaction, yeah.
Yes, and I think that's, in my mind, that's what he was doing.
Okay.
He was ignoring all the recent stuff and just going back to, hey, when they originally started dating, you were cold to us, you didn't seem to be in favor with this, and now then you've gotten your way, and I do agree it's unfair, but I think that was my justification to that he's going back to the past and thinking and just kind of, as a kid, ignoring that she
everything that happened after that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, okay. Well, that makes sense. And I could see that explanation. And that makes sense to me. So Courtney, Courtney keeps insisting to Barbara that Starman is her father. And we saw that Barbara is obviously upset with Pat because, hey, look, what are you putting this idea in my kid's head? Because, Starman's not her father. And I kind of wonder, how much has Barbara told Courtney about her father? Because it doesn't seem like she's told her an awful lot. If she's, and she's getting angry at Pat for she blames doing this, even though as we know, it's all Courtney coming up with this. But Pat doesn't say as much. Pat just kind of keeps that to himself.
So
he's holding his nose and pointing.
pointing might say you were right. You were perfect. That was my one nitpick. And I'm sure as we discuss, we'll come with the others, is why would Barbara not say, that's not your father?
Yeah.
Now, first off, why aren't there photos
Yeah.
of Courtney's father anywhere in the house?
Now, if it was a bad breakup, I understand.
Yes, but she would have photos of her father.
Yeah.
And she would look at a picture, because let's face it, Starman did not wear a mask.
Yeah.
So, therefore, I mean, if Chris Jackson saw a picture of you,
yes,
he would go, that's not my dad.
Right.
And so that's my only, you would seem like Barbara would go, now, and maybe what she's saying is your father wasn't Starman.
Yeah.
She's agreeing that this guy was, the photo she's seeing is the man that, was the father of Courtney. But it just, the way they keep arguing that's not your father means like, it just, I would have liked that a little more locked down.
Well, maybe we will get that because as we see in this episode, Barbara ends up emailing Courtney's father, a guy calling himself Sam Curtis.
Okay.
And this is a guy, without getting too far ahead, this is a guy that was introduced in Jeff Johns' Stars and Stripes comics.
Okay.
Stars and Stripe comic. That he is Courtney's father.
Okay.
So apparently Starman is not Courtney's father.
Okay.
And now I kind of think that there's a reason why Barbara has kept this information from Courtney, but I think it's really unfair to Courtney that she's doing that because obviously it makes if Courtney has all these blanks in her information, why would she get so mad that Courtney thinks that Starman was her father?
Yeah, and I don't remember.
And I think that's a little unfair for
yeah.
Barbara. Like, well, if you're not giving Courtney all the information, what do you expect her to think?
Yeah, I agree. And the other question, how old was Courtney when when Sylvester died? That night that her father did not show up, and we got to see the present again. It was around Christmas, right?
Right.
So do we remember? I don't remember how many years ago.
I think she was young. I want to say maybe 5.
Yeah. So
4.
Had she never met her father?
That's what there's a lot of blanks there.
Yeah, like there are. I do know.
Hopefully, we'll get some information
of people who have. Because of the circumstances of the pregnancy and because the mom is choosing to raise the child by herself, does not share much with the child about her father. Like, doesn't matter. It was, it was someone, we had a relationship. It's ended before you were born.
Right.
And so therefore it's just you and me, kid. So maybe that's the circumstances. Maybe that is why there's no photos. Maybe that they've always been I don't want to talk about your father, move on, so. Yeah.
And Courtney did mention that, her real father by name, Sam Curtis, but she says, well, maybe that was an alias.
Yes. Right.
So, and Barbara's just like, no, that wasn't an alias.
Yeah. So, I'm looking forward to it. And, based on this episode,
And we did see Sam get email Barbara back.
Yes.
So I'm presuming we'll see more.
Yeah. So there's not many episodes left.
Yes.
But I'm hoping we get a payoff, even though they know they have a second season. But I believe they wrote everything. All the episodes were written to begin with, so that they knew we were
just in case they didn't get that second season pickup.
Yeah. Hopefully they write this up and it's done. But yeah, I'm really because this is episode number 10.
Yes.
So
we got three more.
3 more. Okay. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So because there's 13, so we got 3 more episodes to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
Now, something else that happens between Barbara and Pat in this story that I thought we should talk about is When Jordan brings his parents to visit Barbara in her office at the
Yes.
American Dream,
Right.
and Pat is there, and they start speaking Norwegian.
Yes.
Interestingly, this is after Pat and Courtney had expressed that they think Jordan is the icicle. So we find out later that Barbara had the foresight to record the conversation using an app on her phone. And so when Pat and Barbara meet up later at the very same diner, ironically, that they met one another at, that Barbara tells him that, well, hey, I just happened to record this, and oh, hey, I have this translation app because hey, nobody here speaks Norwegian. So they go through the translation, and they talk about how, apparently Jordan's parents were talking about how they feel that Jordan keeps looking at Barbara and hinting that maybe he wants to get closer with her, but it's all going to be moot because of the machine that's going to be up and operational soon. So what did you make of that? And what I thought was pretty clever foresight on Barbara's part to record that conversation,
And
even with everything going on.
That gives you the sliver of a hope that she may end up coming around.
Yes.
And not just because it's a TV show, but because I think it shows this thought. I think this added fuel to the fire that Jordan's parents are matchmaking. They want her. They think she would be someone who would make a good second bride for him.
Replacement wife, yeah.
Yeah, and also I think though.
Well, hey, she's Aryan. She's blonde, blue-eyed.
Yes.
So perfect for their kind of sort of vaguely hinted Nazi fascist-like attitudes.
And you wonder if part of the American dream brainwashing is that she'll be even more susceptible to being the kind of spouse they want their son to have.
Yeah.
It's interesting to see they're so nice to her. They're bringing her snacks that thank them for the meal, and they're kind of like, what? Why doesn't this Pat guy just get out of the way?
Yeah.
Right. Like we have something, and so I thought that was some really interesting scenes in the office.
Well, you notice Jordan never even acknowledges Pat when he's there.
No.
He's all talking to Barbara. It's like
Yes.
Pat's just standing there and nobody's talking to him at all.
Mm-hmm.
It's like he doesn't exist.
Yeah, exactly. So I like that a lot. I think that, and I thought it was a neat moment to see them back at the diner where they first connected, and them sharing that sound and the talk of it. So,
I'm sure there was some nice symbolism there that they'll get back to what initially attracted themselves to one another in the first place.
I agree. Yes.
Yeah. So, but anyway, anything else about Pat, Courtney, Barbara, or Mike you want to talk about?
I can't think of anything. I think we kind of covered everything.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So let's move on. Topic number 2. Let's talk about a little bit more about the icicle, and let's also talk about the Dragon King. And we can also probably throw in Cindy as well, because we kind of get a little bit of a Cindy update. And rather humorously.
She's here, Daddy. She's here. Let me kill her. Let me kill her.
Yeah. So, so obviously we saw that Jordan. We talked about Jordan with his parents, but Jordan also goes to visit Brainwave, the original Brainwave, in the hospital, and tries to, now that he finds out that the original Brainwave is awake And so, hey, our plan can go forward as well planned. And then that Icicle brings Brainwave back to the ISA, even though his memories are a little fuzzy, and we'll talk about that a little bit more. But just we see that Jordan's still making moves, and obviously that while he's there visiting Henry Sr., the cosmic staff shows up. So what did you make of Jordan in this episode, I guess, is my question, before we get into the Dragon King?
So Jordan continues to be a really good villain.
Yeah.
Very, pardon the pun, cold as ice.
Yes.
And he, for example, when the staff shows up, right, the staff is trying to go to Courtney, like, look, there's something going on. And we still, like, we aren't sure how much AI is in the staff. Are they like the goggles? Is it like the goggles, or is it a little bit more? Is there a mystic part of it? But the staff decides it has to go on its own to try to protect, Courtney and the family, and just to do the right thing. And it gets captured. And I do think that's a great scene where Jordan's like, "Where did you come from?" And Hank's like, Henry is like, "Is that Starman's cosmic rod, or staff?" And so those are some nice things. We're going to talk about Brainwave in a minute, so
yeah, I want to devote a separate topic to Brainwave and Brainwave Jr.
But I think going to the hospital and Jordan kind of taking him under his wing and saying, "Look,
you're still in this, right?
Yeah, it's going to be okay.
We're still good, right?
Yeah, we're your family. We're your partners. Everything's going to be okay." And
meanwhile, you've got that the original Brainwave's just not remembering everything.
Yeah.
From the past 10 years.
Right.
At this point.
And so this is.
So he's like, okay, I guess I'm coming with you. Okay.
Yes, exactly, because he's a little confused and everything's going on, which sets up a great drama at the end. I like that payoff of Jordan being able to capture the staff and continuing to kind of move forward with this plan.
I was a little concerned he was going to snap the staff in two.
So was I.
Because it was cold and brittle. But
yes, exactly.
Interestingly, he didn't. I was surprised by that he didn't do that. So let's talk about the Dragon King for a moment.
Sure.
So we finally get the big reveal about what's under the hood, literally.
Yes.
And then we get a little catch up with Cindy, who is apparently still locked in her cell. And we finally get to see the Dragon King fight, the various members and his, army of drones / goons.
Yeah.
Fight the JSA, the new JSA. So what did you make of one, the big revelation, and two, that big fight?
So nitpick number 2.
Yeah.
The JSA. Next generation has not had enough training to be that much better at a fight. But I'm going to let that go, right?
Yeah.
Do you agree? That's just a little bit...
Yeah, there's some stuff I want to save for later when we talk about Brainwave and Brainwave Jr.
Okay.
But yeah, you're absolutely right, because they're still kind of off doing their own thing, at least as far as our man, Rick, is concerned.
Right.
Because Rick, once he sees, once they go down in the tunnels, and Rick sees, oh, hey, Solomon Grundy, the guy, that thing that killed my parents. That's where 100% of his attention goes to.
Yeah, forget my teammates.
Forget my teammates.
Yeah.
Yeah, forget everything else. Like, I want to kill that thing.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go about it in a really bad way.
Yes. Yeah, he's not the sharpest tool in the shed, as they say.
No.
But
or he's just, he's just thinking so impulsively.
Yeah, and like I said, I thought they were able to fight better. And maybe that's just, Yolanda's Wildcat has gotten better with her.
She seems much more comfortable with her powers.
With her powers and doing well, yes. And Courtney doing really well without her staff. So I like that. The Dragon King and she calls him Snapdragon, which I thought was funny.
Yeah. So what did you make of his look under the hood?
Yeah, that we assumed, right, that he had somehow to live this long had genetic himself so that he is. I take Komodo dragon DNA or something and added it to his own.
Yeah, to
give him that life.
Yeah, probably like a Komodo dragon to extend his life.
Yeah.
And obviously, now he's got all scaly faced and whatnot, and just obviously he's. There was a nice payoff, a nice little. I mean, I kind of knew. I knew what was under the hood, but it's funny that even with all this going on, with the JSA attacking, Dragon King still isn't letting Cindy out of that cell to fight.
No, that was kind of funny. I hadn't thought of that till you just mentioned it. But yeah, like, okay, come on out. Let's get
Yeah, you think it was like, okay, maybe you can help with this. Nope. Yeah. Still doesn't trust her.
Just my drones, my horde of mindless beasts are going to be enough.
Right.
So, yeah, I think this was a pretty good fight sequence. I thought it was good and nice and back. It seemed like Yolanda was trying to think ahead, like, how can I get Courtney her staff?
Yeah.
There was some nice pacing and some nice timing on just when you absolutely needed her. Okay, we get that. I knew it wouldn't happen, but I almost was waiting for the Shining Knight to show up again. Just like when he's coming with his sword.
Then you're going to have to wait till next episode for that.
Yeah, exactly. I just think it was good. And I think that we understand, the kids barely got out of there alive, and the reason they do is what we're going to talk about in our next topic.
Yes.
But I thought it was well written, well done, with some nice character moments. So we moved the plot ahead a great deal while learning more about not so much about Jordan and the Dragon King, but the other JSA Next Generation. So I think the big topic was our first topic, the dynamics of the family. But I think we got enough movement that against our villains that we're gonna it move the story along for the season.
Yeah, because and then they went in there intentionally to try to get the Cosmic Staff and Henry's father.
Yes.
Now they got the staff, but unfortunately Henry's father turned out to be something a little bit different, which kind of course, segues nicely into our third topic. So let's dive right into that.
Good.
So let's talk about Brainwave Jr. and Brainwave, his father. And we can also talk a little bit more about the JSA, because Brainwave Jr. does a very heroic moment where he faces his father. There's a nice little confrontation so that the others can get away and escape. So he essentially sacrifices himself. So this kind of will lead us back to what you had mentioned at the very beginning of our episode. So at long last, Henry King Jr. shows his true colors. And I was glad to be proven right on this one.
I was very glad you were proven right, even though I would love to have been right.
Yes.
What I love, not that I adore crow sandwiches,
yes,
but I could not imagine how they were going to write in a way to make this absolutely horrible young man, with the behaviors he had, what he did with the Yolanda, with his selfishness, how they would give him a redemption arc. And this did not feel rushed, this episode.
Yeah.
But the little pieces they've shown of what he's going through as he gets his powers and how it affected him. And over the past 3 episodes where he's just, I want to be left alone, and he's hurting. And then last week it was a little bit more. And this one, he sees his father coming back after, and he doesn't remember the past 10 years. He remembers Henry being 6. And with the happiness, and he sees a kindness of a father he has not seen in 10 years.
Right.
And he
also saw those videos
yes.
where his father had talked about how he blamed Jordan for
yes.
his wife's death.
Right.
Henry's mom's death. So as far as as far as Henry Jr. is concerned at this point, Jordan is the one responsible for his mother's death.
And so he's saying, we can go save my father.
Yes.
The same way, and by doing that, he's good now. The father, the person you're worried about, Courtney,
doesn't
exist
now.
Doesn't exist anymore. He is and if we save him, he will not go back to that.
But of course, he goes immediately back to that.
Exactly, yes, because they restore his memory. There's no way he is going to redeem himself with Yolanda. Yet somehow, now he didn't do what you asked. You said,
I wanted the two to sit down and talk it out.
Yeah, but you had said...
But circumstances didn't really allow that here.
But you had said he should share that I didn't do that.
Yeah.
It was actually Cindy. But in this way, he did not blame Cindy. He took responsibility and said, I shouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
If I could undo it, I would. And it was sincere enough, and I think Yolanda, because she did honestly care about him, she certainly won't forget it. She was starting to, is this my anger and resentment and hate hurting me more than it is, is it hurting me more than it's helping me? So we got a very quick thing. And then at the very end, and I've got this as my quotes, right? But he looks at Wildcat and he looks at Stargirl at the end of his life.
Okay.
And I do think he's gone. I do not think they will bring him back. I think, and you're always right and I'm always wrong.
I'm not always right.
But you know what I'm saying? I think they will not cheapen that sacrifice. That, his last thoughts were, I'm sorry, and, pushing forward. A very heroic death. Don't know how they did it, but the end I went, I'll be damned.
Yeah.
They have taken this character I despised and had given a redemption arc that is worthy of the series, and this was awesome. And
so they redeemed him to your satisfaction.
They totally redeemed him my satisfaction, Charles. And as you saw, I tweeted, for anyone who follows us, I tweeted Charles a cartoon of a guy eating a crow sandwich.
Yeah.
And I tweeted that yesterday, and Charles tweeted the Game of Thrones, quote on back. So I just think, and you always expected this. So were you execution?
No, I was not. I was not disappointed at all. I was hopeful that something like this. Now, this didn't play out exactly like I thought,
right?
And I'm still holding out hope that even though the actor has said that Henry is dead, and everybody's saying, that you think Henry is dead, Henry Jr. I don't think he's dead.
Okay. And
I'm holding out hope because, for one thing, comic book rules apply. We didn't see a body, and even then.
Right.
And then, 2, Henry has telekinetic powers, so what's to keep him from creating a little bubble around himself to protect him from the rocks?
Okay.
So I'm holding out hope. I may be completely wrong about this one, but I'm holding out hope that we will see him down the road, especially now that there's going to be a season 2.
Okay.
Maybe
Good.
they intended to kill him off initially,
Okay.
thinking that, well, we may not get a season 2. But now that there is a season 2, I'm holding out hope that he'll be back.
Okay. Good.
So we'll see. But yeah, just I love the fact, and credit to Jake Austin Walker for his performance, because he goes through the whole gamut of emotions. He's he's so angry at Jordan, and then hopeful about his dad. He even stands up to Rick in the cafeteria at high school, saying, "You're not going to hurt my father." And Rick is like, "Try and stop me, pal." And they have a little dust up.
Yeah.
Until Henry kind of telekinetically shoves Rick backwards, and but Henry Jr. is right there with the JSA, helping them all along the way.
Yes.
To rescue his father, and then when it comes down to his father's memories come back, and he sees that his father is so evil, and his father even admits, well, hey, I was the one who killed your mother, not Jordan.
Yes.
And that pretty much clinches it, and then I think that it pretty much cements in his head, I don't want to be like you.
Yes.
And as a result, this is where he fully becomes a hero, and he stands between his father and the JSA so that the JSA can get away to safety.
Yeah. And
at the cost of possibly his own life.
That is a redemption, point where like, I don't want this. And you're not the father, he now sees his father what he is. And the idea that because his mother wouldn't go along with what his father wanted and his plans to kill them is, while yes, is heartbreaking. I just think it's well done. I think it's well executed, and I was really, really happy.
And great writing by Robinson, of course.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
And Henry Jr. even makes that comment to Courtney, like he says, "You were right, Courtney. People aren't monsters. Don't forget that."
Yes.
So, which pretty much again symbolizes that he doesn't subscribe to his father's ideals.
Yeah, and like I said, I didn't think they were able to do it, but they did it really well.
Yeah.
So yeah, well done.
So hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll see him maybe in season 2. We'll see.
Yeah.
Maybe not, but hopefully.
I do think they need to figure out what to do with Beth during fight scenes.
Right. Because she still has 0 skills.
Right.
So apart from just like maybe grabbing a fire extinguisher off a wall or something.
Yeah.
She's pretty much useless in a fight.
Yeah, and I think they need to either have her be, Barbara Gordon,
or like Oracle.
Or Oracle, yeah.
Yeah.
Or, do something. I think that, and that's truly a minor.
When she was Oracle,
yes. But overall, and yes, someone needs to teach Rick that you stay on mission. You can't go off on wild tangents, and also be careful what you wish for, because, you're only strong for an hour, and Solomon Grundy can go longer than an hour and will pulverize you.
Well, something I noticed now that you bring it up about Rick and Solomon Grundy. So when Rick is trying to break into the cell that's holding Solomon Grundy to keep him from rampaging all over town.
Yeah.
Which in itself is a horrible idea, because Rick thinks, okay, I'm going to go in there and kill that thing. But what if Solomon Grundy gets loose, starts rampaging through the town and killing people? And then, to make matters worse, the way he goes about it is really dumb. Because if you notice on that big vault door, there's this big wheel.
Yes.
And Rick completely ignores the wheel.
And pulling the hinges.
Yeah. And he's like going after you, like right at the latch.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
makes no sense.
Made no sense. So it's just like, he's just not thinking.
No, he's not.
Yeah. And I don't know, it could be, the chemicals, but I think it's also, he's too much of a hothead. He's got to have to settle down. So I'm kind of wondering if they're setting up where in his quest for vengeance against Solomon Grundy, something bad is going to happen to make him reflect and change his attitude.
Could be.
So we'll see.
Yeah.
It seems like that's the only way to really address it. So
I agree.
All right. And then Brainwave gets away, of course, but he takes out his own son. That's pretty cold.
Yeah,
right? But this is the guy who killed his own wife, so
yes.
So he's 2 for 2 for the family, I guess.
Yes.
All right. And we'll see how that plays out. But obviously a very tragic ending, very powerful ending.
It was
emotional,
a very powerful ending,
yes.
And
great writing. So anything else about this episode?
I just on a minor kind of note that I love the fact that the producers of this show somehow find the budget to use really good music. Like they have used not only.
Well, they're going back to some oldies, so we're probably cheaper than.
Well, I don't think Springsteen's Santa Claus is Coming to Town. I don't think Marvin Gaye's Ain't No Mountain High Enough. I mean, these are pretty well made pop songs. Who Wrote the Book of Love? I mean, they are not using covers. They are using the original recordings. And I know, like back in the day with WKRP in Cincinnati, when they were trying to.
But it's not like they're using the Beatles or U2 or anything.
It's still expensive. It is very expensive, Charles. So I just want to call out that they really good use of music.
All right. Well, they do have and they should have a good little custom soundtrack if you want to make one.
Yes, we should. Yeah, Spotify, Stargirl Spotify playlist would be.
Well, also you can go probably on TuneFind.com where you can get the listing of each song if you want to compile your own soundtrack, because that's a site I use regularly to compile my own for shows like Doom Patrol or Titans or whatever.
What was the last? I didn't use TuneFind to find. What was the final song? Because I did not recognize it. I'll have to look it up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Favorite quotes? Do you have any favorite quotes for this episode?
Just a couple.
Okay, go for it.
One, when Pat's talking to Courtney outside the garage, and he says, "Losing your mother, that'll hurt forever, but I can live with it as long as I know you both are safe."
Yeah, and that was a great statement by Pat.
Yeah,
it's like this is going to kill me.
Yeah,
I'm going to be thinking about this forever. But my consolation is as long as you guys are safe, that's okay. I can live with it.
Yeah, and then the last one was, as we already talked about, Henry King Jr. He's on the wrong side of the bars. He's done everything he can to help his friends, and they weren't friends, but they have.
Quickly, they're Courtney's friends, and he seemed to have a good relationship with Courtney at least.
Yeah, so he's trying to do this, and he looks at Yolanda, and I am sorry. And then you're right. People are good. Don't let this change your mind. And for someone who had said earlier that, no, my dad is right, people are monsters, to come around is a really nice kind of button on his redemption arc, and I liked it a lot.
Yeah.
How about you?
I of course love Cindy, where she's going, "Daddy, daddy, 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 she's here. That bitch is here. Let me out. Come on, let me out. I want to kill her. Please, please, let me, please." That
was a great scene. I love that.
Just like a little kid.
Yes.
But a homicidal little kid. I thought that was.
Yes.
And Henry talking with Courtney and Beth saying, "Look, if it helps, she didn't tell me anything. I read her mind." And Courtney adds, "Well, which he's not going to do anymore."
Yes.
And Beth adds to that, "That's only polite."
Yes, I thought that was really well done. Yes.
And then lastly, Henry Jr.'s kind of final words to his father, where Brainwave says, "I had to make a choice. Don't make me choose again, son. Stand by my side now or not at all." And Henry Jr. replies, "I will never stand by your side." And pretty much clinches you get the feels. And,
I did get the feels.
And Charles is watching this going, yes, that's the Brainwave Jr. I've been wanting to see. So,
yeah. Really
right.
well done.
So very cool. So very happy with that. What's your rating?
Do you want to go first? Because
All
the
right.
past few weeks I've stolen your ratings.
All right. I will go first. So,
Okay.
like I said at the beginning, I think this episode is the best episode Stargirl's done so far.
Yeah.
And it's 10 episodes. I mean, it's only been 10 episodes, but I think this is the best one of the season so far. So I'm going to give it 9 out of 10 banana split sundaes.
So that was my topic.
Yes,
So
I stole one.
there we
Yes.
go. I liked it more than you.
Yeah.
I'm giving it perfection.
You gave it a 10.
I'm giving it a 10 out of 10 frozen cosmic staffs.
Nice.
I think partly because I didn't think they were going to be able to do this, the redemption arc so well. And with doing that, and I do agree, our buddy David K. Proctor often says that, you have to be very rare on 10s out of 10s, but I think this one earned it. Okay. So I'm excited.
All right. I'm still holding out hope that maybe the season finale will be even better. So we'll see.
Yeah.
All right. Fandom Zone news. I only got a couple of things to bring up so far. The Boys has been renewed by Amazon Prime for season 3, even though season 2 hasn't even arrived yet.
Yes.
So if you're looking for season 2, that's coming out on September 4th, 2020. Okay. So that's just like kind of right around the corner, a couple months from now.
Yep.
And definitely looking forward to that, as we're both fans of The Boys.
Yes.
And then Marvel's Hellstrom series, based off of their classic 70s character, the son of Satan, a.k.a. Damien Hellstrom. That's going to be premiering on Hulu October 16th on Hulu. Okay. And they released a trailer, and it looks pretty interesting. It's pretty cool to see some actual horror from Marvel a little bit.
Nice.
So that looks pretty good. I know you're not a big horror fan, but this looks pretty intriguing so far. I'm definitely going to at least check it out.
Okay. Did you see, and I don't think we talked about this in the past episodes, Lucifer got a new trailer.
Yeah, we got that, yeah.
And so I'm looking forward to that.
That's coming up soon as well.
Yeah, so that's good stuff. That's real good stuff.
Yep. So just a little bit, and obviously hopefully we'll get some more information next week. Phantom Zone fan mail. So we did get... No?
Really? We did? I'm saying as in I can't believe we finally got feedback.
Well, we finally got feedback from Ken from Chicago,
okay,
but he was late for last week's episode.
That's true.
So what he did, and he was playing catch up on top of it. So he titles this one Shiv Part 2 and Brainiac. It's like Brainiac. No, that's the Superman villain, but it's Brainwave we're talking about here. So so he writes in, and I'm just going to kind of truncate some of this because it's a bit long, this one. He's kind of combining two, so I can understand why. So he writes in, he goes, "Hi, Zoners, or do you prefer, quote, Charles and Jesse?" And we tend to prefer Charles and Jesse because, well, one, that's our names, and two, we kind of consider the Zoners our listeners. So, because Zoner Nation's out there listening to us. So, so that's a little clarification on that. He says he gives Shiv Part 2 10 out of 10 cats playing with their prey, or if that's used, 10 out of 10 Beths coming to her senses and getting out of the tunnel.
Nice.
Says it was all good. Courtney's losing. Cindy's play acting. Dragon King's pointing out how Cindy's victory wasn't so much of one. Beth's plan, or lack thereof, the Stepford wife, and her ogling a prone Pat working on her plumbing. Her actual plumbing don't go there. Beth's nope. Courtney's rematch with Shiv was never called that in either parts of the episode. Yeah, I thought that was interesting. It's like, well, they titled the episode Shiv, but they don't actually refer to her as Shiv. That's an interesting point. Henry's power reveal. Cindy is taking by the Dragon King's Oompa Loompas, drones, back into the sewers. Yes, this is a bit of a run-on sentence here. And probably the tunnels that cross all over or under Blue Valley to Courtney's and Henry's mind meld and his shock and fear fleeing the scene. and Dragon King watching it all on his cameras, presumably on mechanical drones flying overhead.
Okay.
As for Brainwave, another 10 out of 10. This is the hope speech I've been waiting 5 years for on Supergirl and 6 years for The Flash to do. Also, all good. My favorite was Courtney's speech to Henry that people are not all monsters, and those who are only monsters, that there is a lot of pain and fear with people wanting love if you take the time and effort to dig deeper. Henry had a hard time accepting that, but instead of browbeating it into him on other CW shows, Courtney relents and lets him think on it and make up his own mind. Yes, 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 perfection, chef's kiss.
Good.
And as for the impulsiveness of Courtney going off on her own without her team, actually against the team's wishes, say it with me, she's a teenager. Teenagers do impulsive stuff all the time. Also the dinner, the Norwegian pray, may our enemies suffer, the hot bowl, that cold hands, the real reason Jordan came over for dinner, because his son likes Courtney. Of course, Courtney was scared to death. And Barbara knows, for the love of Pete Olson, Barbara knows the secret's out. And the cat's out of the bag, although the staff is under the bed. Too late, though, because Barbara knows. And unnecessary secrecy about one of my banes about superhero shows. Get it out amongst closed loved ones, not the public or total strangers. Now, Pat gets to see how flawed his thinking was in keeping the secret for so long. What's the justification when the secret gets out? Well, we find out that in this episode. It's always come across as weak and lame / Barry Allen / Joe West versus Iris West or Kara Danvers versus Lena Luthor. So it sounds
Very
like
nice.
Ken has some issues with other CW shows that he's kind of attributing to this show, I think.
I like that. I liked how he's connecting the dots, though, and showing about other things they've done for
Cosmic staff hiding under the bed like a scared dog. Awesome. Ken from Chicago. P.S. Why hasn't Henry just revealed to Yolanda it was Cindy who emailed everyone her topless picture? Because of how Cindy got the picture, grabbing the phone from Henry while he was showing it to several of his high school friends at school. That's still a jerk move on his part. I agree. But yeah, it was Cindy who was the one who emailed the picture again.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah, so maybe Henry just intended to show it to his immediate friends, but Cindy was the one who blasted it to the whole school. And I think that's the far bigger crime, obviously.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I hold Cindy responsible for that one, really. Henry just a little bit, but I think he made up for it because, he sacrificed his life, maybe.
There you go. Yeah.
So, all right. So if you want to be like Ken from Chicago, please do write to us. phantomzonecast@gmail.com. That's phantomzonecast@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. Love to hear your thoughts on Henry's Jr. sacrifice, or what your thoughts are for these upcoming 3 episodes, or what your hopes are for season 2. And otherwise, you can reach out to us on Twitter @PhantomZoneCast on Twitter, the Phantom Zone Podcast on Facebook, or Instagram @PhantomZonePodcast. Jesse, where can they reach you?
Well, you can hear me once a week with a very charming co-host, Charles Skaggs, where we go into the world of Doctor Who. And on Next Stop Everywhere, please check that out, as we have a big one coming up this week. If you're going to rank top 10 Doctor Who episodes of all time, Vincent the Doctor, I think, would make a lot of people's lists. And so we're really excited about talking about that with 2 guest companions, Nick and Martha. So check that out. You can hear me talk music with people from around the world on Set Lusting Bruce. And you can find me on Twitter @JesseJacksonDFW. And I'm on Instagram and Facebook, but I'm mostly on Twitter. And we'd love to hear from you what you think of the show and what you think of the podcast. Go to iTunes, rate and review us, and tell us what's happening. Charles, I think you do a podcast or two besides the ones you do with me. How about let's share?
Yeah, so as for me, of course, at Charles Skaggs on Twitter, at Charles Skaggs on Instagram, Facebook, of course, Charles Skaggs in Hilliard, Ohio. Would love it if you liked and followed me there. Or my blog of geeky things.
Damn good coffee. And hot.
Damn good coffee in the hot, where I talk about all the stuff we talk about here on the Phantom Zone podcast, including Stargirl or Watchmen or The Boys or all kinds of comic book, sci-fi, TV shows, news of my other podcasts they do for Southgate Media Group, including the aforementioned Next Stop Everywhere, the Doctor Who podcast, where, as Jesse said, we're going to talk Vincent and the Doctor this week with DJ Nick, whom you've heard here, and also Martha Southgate from the Southgate Media Group that we always talk about. Finally getting Martha on one of our podcasts, so very cool about that. And also Titan Talk, the Titans podcast, where right now DJ Nick and I are discussing Doom Patrol Season 2, which is currently airing on HBO Max and DC Universe, and that's been a bit of a trip. We just, last week we had Holly Mack joining us to talk Sex Patrol, which is a very fun episode. We had a ball talking that. And so we're kind of like halfway through this season so far, getting close. And then also Ghost with the Twin Peaks podcast that I do with Zan Sprouse, wife of comic artist Chris Sprouse, where we talk about all things Twin Peaks, David Lynch. And last episode we talked Mulholland Drive, the 2001 David Lynch film. And then coming up later this week, we're going to be talking Mulholland Criterion, which is going to be the Criterion Collection special features on their Blu-ray release for Mulholland Drive. You know, with all the interviews and whatnot. So we're going to kind of do a deeper dive into the making of that film, and I think that's going to be a fun discussion. So everybody, please check that out. I think it'll be very informative and a lot of fun, because Zan's always a trip. And otherwise, next time on the Phantom Zone, for episode 187, we're going to be talking Shining Knight. So long last, Janitor Justin steps to the forefront, and we get the return of Pat Dugan's fellow Seven Soldiers of Victory member, the Shining Knight, for episode 11 of Stargirl. So that should be a lot of fun. And I believe that episode is written by Jeff Johns.
Okay, good.
So that should be a pretty deep dive into the DC Universe as well, I'm guessing.
Good. That sounds great.
So, Jesse, any final thoughts before we sign off?
No, like I said, really great episode. Looking forward to how they're going to stick the landing in the last three, and we'll see what happens.
All right. So, everybody, thank you guys for listening. Thank you, Ken, for writing in. And everybody, please come on back next time. The Phantom Zone, episode 187, The Shining Knight, is going to be making his debut. So it's going to be a lot of fun to talk about. So everybody, we'll see you next time right here on the Phantom Zone podcast. Goodbye, everybody.